Good lord, Bungie have done it again. We have the August 28th update today, guys, and of course we're getting a bunch of changes that we'll see in the Forsaken expansion that are going live in the game today. I do have a full breakdown of the patch changes as we go into year 2 that we're going to speak about in this video. But firstly, we're actually going to talk about a new Bungie Vidoc where they speak a lot about stuff coming in Forsaken. We get a look at some very interesting gear, what actually looks like a machine gun, which is pretty cool, but we see some new quests, bounties, various vendor updates, and Bungie talk about the annual pass and the content, new pieces of gear, exotics, and things that we're actually going to see in these mini expansions. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff, guys, a ton of new gear, a ton of new info about this DLC, a massive breakdown of all of the patch notes. It's going to be a bit of a longer video, but I hope you guys do enjoy it. If you do, a like below is very much appreciated. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to see a lot more D2 content. But now let's get straight into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Bungie's new Vidoc. They speak a lot about Forsaken in this one. They talk about their goals with the expansion, the various different things that they're doing. We get a look at the new director, the map, and how it's going to appear. Pretty cram-packed with content and things to do. They confirm that Season 4 will actually be called Season of the Outlaw, which is pretty interesting. Right here, we see some of the new collectible lore at the Gate Part 1, talking about Prince Aldrin, which is pretty cool. It also has a score attached to it. So this is kind of the new grimoire. We can actually see some of the spiders inventory right here, various materials and bounties as well, wanted and Tangled Shore bounties to hunt down various different enemies. We'll actually get ghost fragments when we turn these in, which is pretty cool. We get a look at lots of cool gear, and they finally reveal these new titles. So player titles in Destiny, these are going to be based on challenges that you complete, so you can see the kind of reward screen right here. And we can see this Guardian has unlocked a title, the Chronicler, and that actually appears below their name in the game, which is really, really cool. So you will be able to select from a bunch of titles based on your achievements in Forsaken, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Right here, they talk about the annual pass and some of the content they plan to provide as we kind of go through the year. So they talk about free seasons with live events, updates, and rewards. But what we see here is actually, I believe, a warlock loading a machine gun. Now, Bungie had previously said there won't be any machine guns in Forsaken. I don't know if this confirms otherwise, or whether they're actually referring to the annual pass and one of the expansions and seeing these kind of upgrades. So this could actually be annual pass stuff, but that is definitely a belt-fed machine gun right there. We see that Festival of the Lost is going to be returning this October. That's the kind of Halloween event. They talk about seasonal gear and show off a bunch of really cool looking stuff. The Black Armory right here, they say is going to be our opportunity to get hold of some of the most legendary weapons in the lore for Destiny. We can see that there are some incredibly unique weapons on the screen right there. And this Guardian actually holding one of them looks like a sniper rifle, some kind of rifle for sure, with really cool markings on it. This will be the kind of gear that we can expect to see in these updates. Joker's Wild will actually elaborate on the Drifter from the Gambit game mode, so he's going to be an important character moving forward. And Penumbra is actually going to involve the Leviathan in some form. So Leviathan coming back in year 2, obviously with new and different content right there. A very dark looking Leviathan at that. So pretty interesting stuff. What do you think, guys? Bungie are absolutely trying to blow our minds, I think, with all of the stuff that they're revealing here. Super exciting stuff, so I'd be curious to hear your thoughts below. So as I said, we are going to be breaking down the full patch notes for year 2 of Destiny 2. So this is going to be an information heavy video with lots of technical stuff to talk about. So let's start out with the patch notes for update 2.0, the one that's arrived today. For items and economy in general, exotics will now always drop at or above your Guardian's power level. Year 1 challenges will no longer grant destination materials or tokens. Destination materials can be earned via bounties available from their respective destination vendors. Anything that previously granted destination tokens or rare materials will grant common destination materials moving forward, and destination tokens and rare destination materials are no longer granted, but they can still be redeemed for reputation if you have them in your inventory. We have the changes for Xur. We've heard about these, but he'll no longer display a vendor icon on the map, and he's no longer tied to flashpoints. On top of this, his fated engram will only grant pre-Forsaken exotics. In the tower, they've increased the vault size to 500 slots. Players may now dismantle shaders in stacks of 5 in Master Rahul's vendor screen, and for Cage 6, he has left the tower to investigate disturbances in the reef. On top of this, they've removed the treasure maps and the scout reports from the game. For the user interface, they've updated the title screen to reflect Forsaken's launch, so it is going to look different. And the director has been updated to reconfigure the way challenges, milestones, flashpoints, and quests are presented. So the Year 1 challenge system has been removed and converted into bounties, which will be available through the respective destination and activity vendors on September 4th. Bounties are displayed in the pursuits bucket of the inventory screen, and in Year 2, challenges now refer to the bonuses that grant rewards on a daily or weekly basis. These can be seen in the director via new indicators on a playlist or destination when available. Milestones will now only display one-time completion objectives, such as campaign missions, subclass missions, and strike introductions. These will remain as milestones. For weekly and daily milestones, previous weekly and daily milestones such as Strike and Crucible will now appear as weekly or daily challenges in their associated playlists, so that is on the director, and Flashpoint milestones will now appear as a challenge visible on its respective destination vendor. Exotic quests are now displayed in the inventory tab under the pursuits bucket. They can be recovered at the quest's associated vendor if abandoned. Exotic quests now correctly use exotic coloring in the UI, and icons for exotic quests are now appropriately represented with exotic rarity. World quests are now displayed in the inventory tab under the pursuits bucket, and they've updated the director with a new theme and layout to better represent destinations for Year 2. Pre-sale is in the reef location, and the Leviathan raid and raid layers have been moved to Nessus on the map. Now though, we have big changes to exotics. So we'll start out with the subclass armor exotics. We've got the Orpheus rig. No longer grants super energy on bloom and damage sharing. They've raised the base super amount that you receive from tethers to create a more consistent and less exponential experience. Super energy given is scaled up when more powerful enemies are tethered, and when used with Mobius Quiver, it will grant additional tether shots. Celestial Nighthawk now grants 33% of your super energy back if the target is killed by the shot. Wormhusk Crown no longer starts regen of health and shields, and instead grants a larger health and shield bump at the beginning of dodge instead of at the end. Knucklehead Radar has had enhanced radar resolution when crouching. Lucky Pants extend the duration of a legally modded holster, and Shinobu's Vow for skip grenades return some of the energy when it damages an enemy. Pretty interesting stuff. For the Warlock, the Stag, Rift dropped from death now has standard Rift duration, so it will last longer. Eye of Another World, ability recharge bonus increased. For Nezarec Sin, they've increased the duration of Abyssal Extractors, and rapid kills now extend the duration up to 20 seconds. For Skull of Dire Ahamkara, they've increased super energy gained from Nova Bomb kills, and killing higher ranked enemies now rewards more super energy. For the Transversive Steps, they've enhanced the mobility. After sprinting for a short time, your currently equipped weapon is automatically reloaded. And for Winter's Guile, they've tuned the damage and duration per stack to be more consistent. Then we have the Titan. The Mark 44 Standasides, overshield granted by sprinting appears faster. For Hallowfire Heart, base cooldown reduction when super is uncharged in addition to CDR when charged. For the Helm of State 14, grants allies an overshield for a short duration when passing through Ward of Dawn. Mask of the Quiet One, increased energy gain from incoming damage, and while critically wounded, health is granted from kills. Prestival for Lupi, the Healing Pulse is more effective. For the Peacekeepers, they've increased movement speed when wielding an SMG, and for the Wormguard Caress, they've tuned the damage and duration per stack to be more consistent. There is a segment in the patch notes about the ammo economy. I think it's stuff that a lot of us have heard about in news and things like that, but if you are curious about how all of it's going to work, I will link this full set of patch notes down below. Then we have changes to various different types of weapons, and this is the time to kill stuff, the damage changes that will affect the entire game. So for primary ammo weapons, they've increased precision damage output of primary ammo weapons, increased in-air accuracy, decreased body shot damage in PvE, and decreased auto-rifle damage required to stagger enemies to compensate for reduced body shot damage. For special ammo weapons, they've reduced the damage output of special ammo weapons, increased the damage of trace rifles, and trace rifles now disintegrate defeated enemies. For heavy ammo weapons, they've increased the damage and blast radius on grenade launchers, increased damage, reduced time to charge and fire, as well as reduced aim assist on linear fusion rifles. Swords will have increased ammo and increased damage mitigation when guarding. We've got some changes to exotic weapons. So Sleeper Simulant fixed an issue where charge time was not displayed properly on the weapon, magazine size has been increased, and they've reduced the base damage. For Borealis, bonus damage after breaking a shield increased on precision hit, and it still grants bonus damage on body shots. For Prometheus Lens, it no longer generates special ammo on kill, and for Tractor Cannon, Repulsor Force Weaken effect now increases non-void damage by 33%, but no longer stacks with other weaken effects, such as Shadow Shot, Hammer Strike, and things like that. We have various changes to perks, so they've reduced the bonus damage output on Explosive Payload, increased the time allotted between kills to earn bonus ammunition with Ambitious Assassin, they've decreased the amount of time a weapon must be stowed for the perk to become available, and this is the Backup Plan perk. For Box Breathing, they've reduced the time required to activate the perk, reduced the precision bonus, and the perk now resets after firing, so that is the nerf that we actually saw in some of the gameplay. It will, however, activate much quicker than it previously did. High Impact Reserves have had damage bonus granted earlier in the magazine. Grave Robber now reloads your entire magazine. That's a pretty good buff to that perk. Primary ammo is granted directly to the mag. Heavy and special ammo is transferred from reserves to the magazine, So if you're using a primary weapon, you get that ammo for free. Heavy or special, it will come from reserves. That is a very good buff for Grave Robber. Field Prep, increased inventory reserves, and increased stow, ready, and reload speed when crouched. For auto-loading holster, they reduced the time required for perk to activate when the weapon is stowed. For opening shot, they've increased the fall-off damage, so the weapon does more damage at longer ranges. And for triple tap, the weapons will now grant ammo directly to the magazine, no longer pulling from reserves. Now we have some general changes. So the visual layout of perks has changed in subclass paths. They've increased the base Guardian melee damage. It now takes 2 melee hits to defeat an enemy Guardian in PvP. They've increased the base damage of Seismic Strike, Hammer Strike, and Shield Bash, and adjusted the active super bonus damage resistant values, added a timer to the status effect for Healing Rift, Empowering Rift, Rally Barricade, to communicate the time remaining before they expire. Now that they talk about grenades, they've increased the base damage for Axiom Bolts, Flashbangs, Incendiary Grenades, Storm Grenades. And then for the Scatter Grenade, they retuned the range and fall-off ranges for detonations for more reliable damage. And for the Magnetic, Fusion, and Flux Grenade, all of the sticky ones, they've increased the base damage. Damage is now the same whether a target has been stuck or simply walked over a grenade. Magnetic grenades now detonate a second time only if they're attached to a target. And the second detonation no longer only occurs on the grenade itself, and now will be applied to each individual target hit by the initial detonation. There are some very specific class changes to particular classes. These are more minor changes in general, so once again, I would refer you to the patch notes themselves if you want to check out the remainder of the class-specific changes, but we do have the bulk of the stuff right there. We do have some new information regarding playlists, PvE and PvP. So there is now a daily heroic story playlist. Year 1 meditations have been retired and replaced with this playlist. The story playlist will share modifiers with Heroic Adventures and Strikes, and Forsaken's campaign missions will be featured at 500 power, while Year 1 campaign missions will be featured at 200 power. On destinations, wanted escapees from the Prison of Elders now roam the open world, but they won't drop rewards until September 4th. They've also increased the difficulty of Lost Sectors. A bunch of changes for adventures here. Replayable adventures have been removed from destination vendors. Heroic adventures have been added to all destinations. Destinations without heroic adventures before Forsaken will have them available during their Flashpoint weeks. A random heroic adventure will be available each day. Mercury and Mars heroic adventures are unchanged, and heroic adventures will share similar modifiers with daily heroics and strikes. For Vanguard strikes themselves, in Forsaken, there will be a strike playlist with 3 difficulties, so power 300, 400, and 500. 3 and 400 will not be available when your power level is 40 power higher. The 500 power playlist will always be available, and then for Nightfalls, they have retired the prestige difficulty, increased the base difficulty for Nightfall strikes. Players can choose one of 3 Nightfall strikes each week, and players may select only the strikes for which they have the appropriate expansions. Prison of Elders escapees will appear in strikes, lost sectors, and public areas, so that's going to be pretty interesting. But then for Crucible, there will be a new ammo model for maps to accommodate weapon slots, so presumably different places where ammo drops. different amounts of ammo, and all of that kind of stuff. So, outside of the content specifically, guys, those are the patch changes between Destiny 2 Year 1 and Year 2. What a mouthful. So once we get into the game, this is some of the stuff you can expect to see. As I mentioned, I will keep you posted on anything interesting, any secret stuff that pops up, anything unexpected, and otherwise a bunch of guides on the content changes this week. We can also anticipate more news, so it's going to be a very interesting one, but let me know your thoughts down below on any of these changes. I'd love to hear what you think about them. If you have found this video useful though, a like is very much appreciated below. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to see a lot more Destiny 2 and Forsaken content. For now though, I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you have an awesome day.